Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof. And this is another Winning Proof Unscripted. And today I have David Turner. I'm going to read his bio so I do him justice. David is the founder of Maverick Sports Consulting. He has a wealth of pro player personnel experience in the NFL, CFL, and AFL. David has held scouting and personnel director positions with the Oakland Raiders, San Francisco 49ers, Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, and the Arizona Rattlers in the AFL. David has worked closely with numerous NFL draft picks, including Denver Broncos running back Melvin Gordon, Atlanta Falcons running back Todd Gurley, Baltimore Ravens cornerback Marcus Peters, and San Francisco 49ers defensive end Eric. Is it Arik? Arik or Eric?
Arik.
Arik Armstead. Welcome, David. Hi.
Hi, and you forgot Odell Beckham Jr. You know, my former clients also making headlines these days for the wrong things. But yeah, no, it's been a great run. I really appreciate you having me on today here. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So let's just dive right in and start with some of the things that I want to talk to you about, which is tell the people that are viewing a little bit about how you got into scouting.
Okay, well, this is my mom's most depressing story. So I've been addicted to football since I was like probably 3 years old. My mom would say I was a busy child unless she put football on, and then all of a sudden I would sit still. So I've always watched, and since 9 years old, I watched the NFL draft. This was before, it got really big and people were Mel Kipers of the world were really, known names. And, when I started, I was taking political science classes. I was interning for Congressman Earl Blumenauer and Congressman Miller out in California. And I was really planning a career to go to law school and, maybe become a politician. And all of a sudden, in my head, I was just like, I think there's something else I should be doing. And the only thing that came up was football. So I pounded the pavement until I got an opportunity at the Miami Dolphins as an intern. And my mom was sideswiped, like, what? I thought you were going to law school. And all of a sudden I said, Mom, you let me do it. I swear I'll make a career of it. And that's what I've done. 18 years later now, I've been able to make a career of it. And, under this pandemic and everything now, it's just been a situation where I'm switching courses and doing some other fun things. But that's how I got started, was just honestly pounding the door, sending a ton of emails, sending a ton of resumes, old school, like letter resumes out, and following up with phone calls until I got one interview and one opportunity, and maximize that to make it an 18-year career now.
Wow, that's fabulous. And there are a lot of attorneys leading dog sled tours in Alaska. So, they get out of it real fast. So I think 18 years is a really good long haul. And I don't think you have any inkling of quitting, do you?
No, none.
No, I know that. Now, there was a funny little story about how we got connected and then our ethnic backgrounds, which, just kind of solidified everything. So tell a little bit about that.
Well, it was great. There was a post on LinkedIn that was about my Maverick minutes, and you were like, "Oh, that's really great on the Mav missing." And I was like, "Oh, thanks for the comment." Well, then I was on the phone with my marketing director, Grace DeWitt, and I was like, "Hey, this lady made this comment, and it was really great." And she's like, "That's the lady I was telling you that's a ghostwriter." And I was like, "Oh, wait, that's the same lady?" And she was like, "Yeah, that's the same lady." And she didn't know. She went and looked at the comment that you had made, and she goes, "Oh, that's who I was talking about." And it was just funny how, just naturally the connection hit, where she was telling me a week before about, maybe helping me get a ghostwriter for my books and doing this stuff. And then all of a sudden you made the comment on LinkedIn, and then I brought it up to her, and then all of a sudden, boom, everybody knows each other. And it was just such a small world moment, and it was just crazy. And then you and I get to talking, and it comes out that you're Italian and I'm Italian. And then we start talking about food, of course, and olive oils and stuff. And, because that's what Italians do. And so we started talking about that. And then it was like, oh, we got to do these books together. Like, we just got to make this happen. So it was just been such a natural, awesome connection working with you and how we got together. Again, effortless, natural connection too.
I love that. And I really met Grace because I was with Jill Baxter, a client of mine at the AFCA at the Gaylord in Nashville in January. And she thought it might be a good, American Football Coaches Association for those who don't know. And so she invited me to come along. That's where I met Grace. And so, we spent, time over those, I think 3 days. And so it's just so weird how things, blend into each other. And ultimately, and I'm really excited about doing your books and, and I'm going to tell you that I don't want to give away too much, but there's some stuff that this guy knows about offensive strategies and defensive strategies that really are, you got to know if you are at least interested, even a fan, but if you're interested in becoming a scout, this is the guy you want to learn from and talk to. So I had to put that in for sure. So talk about Friday Night Scout School and what prompted you to write your book, and actually there's 3 books that you're doing. So how did that evolve?
Well, you prompted it to be 3 books instead of one gigantic book. That's what prompted the 3-book idea, was you. But for me, so in February, I was furloughed from being the player personnel director for the Edmonton Eskimos. So, I was on a team career like I'd been forever. And then all of a sudden the CFL started having trouble with thinking they were going to have a season. So the Eskimos chose to furlough their scouts, saying, hey, if we're not going to have a season, we don't need to carry this on the books. As a scout, as a business person, I totally get this decision. As an individual it's affecting, I'm like, thank you for letting us go in the middle of a pandemic where, finding a job as a scout is going to be difficult. Through that process, I got connected with Rick Saratella and the NFL Draft Bible. I did a couple live draft shows when the NFL draft was going on, talking about players and stuff. And then Rick's like, wow, with what they do, because they write Bible reports on scout on all these kids coming out. He's like, why don't we try to, what you brought to the podcast and everything we were doing. He's like, why don't we teach this class? And I said, I don't know if I know enough to teach a class. Like, I never even thought about that. I've taught interns before as we've gone through the season, and we've, taught them how to do certain things, but I never thought about me as a teacher in a classroom setting, right? Just like I've never thought of me as an author ever. So I sat down with a piece of paper and I just started writing out what I would want to teach and how it would look. And it naturally fell into a rhythm of offense, defense, and then the business of football. Because these were the things when I started as an intern, I didn't know. I wasn't a D1 athlete. I didn't play high-level sports. I went to De La Salle High School. I played football there. And then when I got to college, I was a national powerlifting person and a champion at national powerlifting. But that's an individual sport. So some of the schemes and adjustments and things I didn't really know until I started scouting under Dave Gettleman and working with him, Ken Sternfeld, the late Larry Ennis, and those guys. And then obviously my education grew when I went with Al Davis and worked with the Oakland Raiders and stuff into what I am today, and working with coaches like Jerry Glanville, Chris Palmer, and all these, Tom Coughlin, knowing all their different intricacies that they like in players helped me get to where I'm at. So I was like, okay, I got down a 25-week time frame of a, Friday Night Scout School. And then Rick liked it. Like, I kind of pitched it to him like, hey, does this work? And then Rick and Ryan liked it. And then they're like, yeah, we're on board with this. Let's get it rolling. So, our angle, like you're witnessing live, Michelle, is we really want to educate fans, coaches, potential agents, even players. Like, that's why we offer a la carte sessions. So if you're a defensive tackle and you want to learn how you're getting judged by NFL scouts, you can just listen to the defensive tackle segment and say, this is what they're looking for when they're watching tape. This is what they're seeing. If you're a receiver, quarterback, we're doing it all the way through the book. If you're just a super fan that like, I've always wondered why, certain guys go higher in the draft, certain guys don't go lower, you'll want to tune into the business and how we value players and how our decision-making goes into making, putting that value of a player on a board, cutting, lowering them down, bumping them up off play, off the field stuff, off injury stuff, like all that mindset's going to come through. And so then when that happened, Grace and I started talking about Friday Night Scout School a little bit. I'm like, I have this great outline. Does it translate to a book? And then Grace like, I think it does. I know somebody. And then that's when, again, we started chatting. And then I sent it to you. And you're like, well, David, let me tell you this. This isn't a book because that would be like 3,000 pages, Let's go into maybe 3 books, which, again, I never thought about a series of books. And so that's kind of the mindset and maturation of how it came to be, where I organically met Rick, got into the scout school thing, organically met you, and it's turned into a whole 25-week series on scouting, and now 3 books being written on scouting. So,
yeah, well, absolutely. And I thought I knew a little something about football. Like when my son was in high school, I taught him about football, and what to look for. And now that he's married, I will text his wife and say this. So he knows, he kind of knows you know what you're talking about. Say this. Oh, wasn't that looked like a blitz? That looked like this or that. But when I started getting into the integral details of what you are teaching, I'm like, I don't know one single thing about football. So you really go deep into the intricacies. And I think anybody, like the groups you mentioned, coaches, players, even fans, could really benefit from just your wealth of experience. You have such a broad experience base, so that's my opinion.
well, I feel sorry for my brother-in-law sometimes because he'll be cheering for his favorite team. And like the person will get a sack or something, and my sister just comes out of nowhere with, that guy totally missed a block. He had a free run to the quarterback, and he was all happy for a second. And my sister now, because I've trained her eye, can see it and just kind of poops on his mood, and he turns to me, he's all, thanks, dude. Like, most women don't care. They just walk by. Oh, did your team score? Not this one. This one's breaking the play down. And I'm like, sorry.
I love that. And I hope to be able to do that too after I, work on some of this stuff. So if somebody, I don't know if you want to really tell people at this point what order of books you're going to release in what order, but if somebody were to take one of your books, just one of them, and break it down into 3 main points that they could take away from that book, what would you tell them? What are the 3 main takeaways?
Well, yeah, I have no problem talking about what we're doing and what I'm wide open. As
Okay.
you know, our on our podcast, and that's the other part. I have a podcast now. I didn't even know I was going to do a podcast. Now we're 5 episodes in, and it's like, what? Here we go. And that turned out to be crazy. Like, so, but on the podcast we talked about too, what we're going to do is we're going to release the books as the business of football first. So we're going to educate people on decision-making, valuing players, how decisions are being made, the process of it, the salary cap, all that kind of stuff, how to not only create a salary cap, but manage a salary cap. So people understand, like, over the last, I want to say, month or so, you've seen a lot of big contracts being signed, why those make sense this time of year versus other times of year to reward players now versus maybe 2-3 months ago. So we're going to talk a lot about the business of football, sponsorship dollars, how that guides their sponsorship dollars really are kind of like the neck of the head, and they turn attention to certain things. So we're going to get into that as well. So that's going to be the first book. Second book will be scouting offensive players. And then the third book will be scouting defensive players. So, that's how we'll release it. And I hope the takeaways from every book is I left this book knowing more about football than I did before I started reading the book. Second takeaway would be I want to learn more about football. I want to leave them with a desire, kind of translating my passion, hopefully through the pages, to them to learn more about football, because obviously we can't cover everything in these books, but we're going to cover as much as we can, as you know. And like in our seminars, we cover as much as we can every week. We jam pack it in there. And then the third takeaway is hopefully people really respect the quality of information in the pages, that they go back and they go, you know what, compared to other books, this book is really something that becomes a staple in a reading list of people who want to know more about football. I mean, I have three core values in my life. It's passion, intelligence, and integrity. And, right now in my life, they guide me every day in my decision making. And I really hope the passion comes through in these books, and the integrity is that we're putting books out that are worth people, buying and spending their hard-earned dollars on. And then the third is obviously hoping to educate people, so the intelligence is growing for each and every person that reads them.
Yes, that I think that is a given, that people will take those things away from that, from each one of your books, because they are meaty, really, really meaty, in a good way.
Yeah.
There's some books that are meaty that, like, what did I just read? And I need a dictionary to decipher all this stuff. I've read books like that, and you read the last page thinking, what the heck did I just read? And that your book will be broken down into understandable principles of scouting. So they will finish that last page thinking, man, I didn't know all that. I did not know the intricacies that was involved, because we see the players on the field.
Yeah.
Bang, that's it.
Well, like we're going through right now the 34 and 43 defenses, and the differences in what a player looks like inside a 34 defense versus a player that looks what they need in a 43 defense. And then you go and you break down how, say, Alabama runs their 34 versus, LSU runs theirs, or if you're going to run a 4-4-2 in college, like what is it, TCU, then what's that 4-4-2 look like, and how do those players translate up to the NFL? Like, we're walking through all this so people can understand, because the talking heads on TV, they don't even understand it most of the time, and they don't try to educate you on it. But now, at least when you're watching your favorite team, you're like, man, that guy, I could see why he'll be a good player at the next level at this other position, because of these skill sets and traits and physical tools that they have. So
yeah, well, yeah, for sure. And I am learning a wealth of information. That's the perk I get, and the benefit I get. It's just being able to learn more. So
I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Okay, so what obstacles have you experienced in your career and in Maverick Sports Consulting, and how have you conquered them?
First obstacle was getting into the business. That first getting your foot in the door is so hard. I wasn't a former player. I wasn't a former coach. I'm not a relative to anybody in the business, even though people think Norm Turner and I are related. We're not. So it's a situation where I literally I sent out 75 resumes to 6 different NFL teams that I wanted to work for. And I called everybody until they told me to stop calling, or sent me a letter saying, don't come, don't stop, the Dolphins, I had sent 6 letters to different departments. I got 5 rejection letters. I figured the 6th one was just lost in the mail. And I literally, that was the department that gave me the opportunity. And they obviously gave me a chance to go interview, and I got the job. The same thing the next year when that internship was over. Miami had actually put in their budget to increase their department by 1 to hire me, but the powers that be said, no, we're not going to do that. So that got rejected. I went back home, had to find another opportunity, sent out resumes again, called, banged the door. The Giants, I left messages for Dave Gettleman. a bunch of times. And Andrea Wagner, his assistant, walked into him and said, "Hey, you better call this Dave Turner kid back because he won't stop." And he said, "Give me his stuff. Let me look at it." And he looked at it, and obviously he knew George Payton down at Miami, who I had gotten to know. And he called George, and all he offered me was 3 hots and a cot at training camp. And I'd already done a year down at Miami. And he's like, "You've done way more than this, kid." I said, "Yeah, but it's with you and it's in personnel, and I want to come learn from you. So let's get it." And I went up there, and he gave me a whole speech. I'll never forget this speech. You're going to laugh out loud at this one. But he gave me this whole speech about what's not going to happen. Like, don't come up here and work yourself to death and think you're going to gain. I don't take interns out of training camp. You are just here for 3 weeks and da-da-da-da. And he got done. He said, "Any questions?" And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "Yeah, are you done telling me what's not going to happen so I can get to work and start learning what I need to know?" Wow. And his jaw dropped. Ken Sternfeld, I'll never forget, he was sitting over there. He turned around like, "Who the hell just said what?" And I was just like, I just spent a year in Miami trying to break me into the door. And now you tell me I got 3 weeks to learn everything I need to learn to be a scout in the NFL. I don't have time to hear what's not going to happen. I need to know what we need to do to get me educated. So when jobs do open up, I can go and get it. And that's been my mentality my whole life is like, don't tell me what's against the rules, or don't tell me what's not going to happen. Tell me what I need to know. Let me go. Out of that training camp, I got taken to the Giants. I spent 2 years there interning under him and Ken Sternfeld. And again, there's been a lot of bumps, a lot of bumps along the road, and the adversity constantly hits. So, my advice to anybody is you have to have the passion for what you're doing to handle the adversity. If you don't have the passion for the adversity, don't do what you're doing, because now you're working hard, but you're not being competitive. And if you're not being competitive, because to me, competitiveness comes from passion, and if you don't have the competitiveness, you're never going to be great. And if you're not striving to be great, then all you're doing is churning water. And I don't get that mentality. That's just not in me. And I think our short relationship, you've learned that already about me. So
absolutely, I agree with what you're saying. And I think you cannot take it personal when people come at you, because, I've had less than a handful, way less than a handful, but I've had some clients that weren't happy with what I did. And no matter what I've done, they're not happy. And in times past, I just wanted to quit. Like, I'm in the wrong profession. You see other people that are making a whole bunch more money, and you think, I'm doing something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with me. And you go through that mindset. And then you learn, no, it's not me. It's because 99% of my clients love my work. And so don't let that one define who I am or how I'm going to go forward.
Well, and that one isn't happy in their own life. That's what I've come to figure out. It's like that they're not happy in their life. And again, the mentality comes maybe even from their parents, how the parents talk to them, how the parents got on them, or maybe a coach or something. And it really stuck with them and they saw the person as successful. So they go, I got to be this way to be successful, when you really don't. And so there's a lot of mismanagement of empathy and things that can come into play a lot easier when you're talking to people. And even with Maverick Sports Consulting, though, we started in, I want to say 2015, Giovanni Bernard's agent called me and said, "Hey, you're in the AFL, you're in Arena League. Can you come talk to my player and educate him on the business side of what the job process that he's about to go through?" And I said, the gentleman's name is Barty Garamani. He runs ISA Sports Management. And I said, "Barty, I don't want to screw him up. I don't. I've never done interview prep before." And he's like, "No, I just want him to understand the process and how to take advantage of what he's about to go through and everything." And I said, "Okay." So he flew me out to LA, and I went out there and I talked to the young man. And then after that, just a few short years later, like you said, we were in front of big guys like, Odell Beckham and Gurley and Gordon and Peters and all these guys, and their agents were entrusting me with them and their story to teach them how to. And it dawned on me, well, I'm the decision maker they're trying to get to. I'm the guy that they're trying to impress. So who better to teach these kids how to interview and what's on my mind why do I ask these questions is to get to certain answers and understand their mindset and personality and character. So let's teach them this. So that's where we started. And then when I got back in the NFL working for the Carolina Panthers, and I got back to working in CFL as a director and everything, I couldn't do the business too much because there's a, it's a competitive advantage if I'm sitting with these kids and other teams can't get that kind of access. So I couldn't do it. So for a few years it was furloughed, didn't really do much with it. Then when I got let go, I said, what can I really turn Mavericks into? Again, adversity. I could have sat at home, collected my unemployment and lived on, savings. But what I did, I took it, invested it into Mavericks, said, let me see what I can build. And again, what have we built? I don't know. We're teaching, podcasting, writing books, doing, appearances and stuff on different podcasts and things. So, I think it has legs to turn into something special. The more we get into this and the more we continue to grind and go. And that's what's exciting to me is that people really want to learn from a guy like me. I came up in a blue collar family and Italian family, immigrant family. And then now, we're doing this, what I feel are really big things for a humble person like me. I really never imagined all this happening under a company that I owned.
Yes, I totally agree. And I feel the same way with myself, with my business. Who am I to meet the people that I've met along the way? I mean, nobody I'm sat down with Tony Dorsett, but the big famous people who people think are big famous people. And I'm thinking, who am I to do this? But again, that question turns out to be, why not to do it? If we're operating in the gifts that we are given and we operate and use those to the best ability, why not? Why wouldn't opportunities open up? Because there's plenty of talented, John Maxwell has a book, Talent is Never Enough, where he says it's the talented, the super uber talented people. Sometimes they're sitting collecting unemployment. They don't see their potential. It's just, and I call it just us regular people that just say, okay, I'm available. I'm available. And
I'm going to outwork. And, I had a down moment not too long ago. And one of my best friends is my cousin, Mark. And I called Mark and I was like, man, I'm struggling, help me out. And he was just like, here's you in a nutshell. Nobody's going to outwork you. He's like, nobody. He's like, I work hard, but there's nobody's going to outwork you. He's like, so whatever anybody ever says, just know that they're wrong if they say the one thing is he's like, you might not be the best writer. You might not be the best evaluator, even though I have my accolades. He's like, but at the end of the day, the one star that you got above everybody, you get on a treadmill, you're not stopping before them. And
that's right.
And that, to me, because I've read some of Maxwell's books and I've read some other books, and I mean, it's really a characteristic that you find, that's a common thread that you find in a lot of successful people, is that they have a work ethic that, again, isn't always unhealthy. Some are unhealthy, but isn't unhealthy. It's just a work ethic that is that, okay, my mindset, we're going to get something done. Not only are we going to figure out how to get it done, but we have the tenacity and energy to see it through and to follow through with whatever that commitment is. So, for me, I'll never forget one night years ago in training camp, Ernie Accorsi came in like 6 a.m. and he was like, hey kid, is Dave in yet? And I was like, no, not yet. And he kind of looked around the room and he goes, have him call me when he gets in. And I said, okay. About an hour later, Dave walked in. I said, hey, Ernie was here about an hour ago looking for you. And he said, okay. Calls up there, hangs up the phone, and then says, hey, were you here all night? And I go, why? And he goes, Ernie thinks you were here all night. And I said, well, I was. And he goes, why were you here all night? I said, well, you gave me the project to do. And when I got late, I didn't know which way you wanted it. So I did it these 4 different ways. and I just wanted to make sure they were done before you walked in. And he was like, kid, don't stay all night. He's like, you could have asked me and finished it today. I said, yeah, that's just not me. Like, so which one do you want? And I didn't ask to go home, take a break or anything. I just said, what's next? What's the next thing? Let's get it on. Let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And that has proven that is just keeps working itself out in your life.
Yeah, and that's where I gained my experience. I'll be honest with you. Like as a young man, before you have kids and commitments and wives and things, you can do that. You can stay all night. You can work 3-4 days, sleep on a couch, sleep on the floor, whatever. And the education you gain through that experience really catapults you past the competition that where all these people who want to go out and do things. Yeah, did I miss on some life? Yes. Did I lose some friends along the way because I wasn't out with them? Yes. But the ones that were meant to be in my life, have stuck in my life, are still here, and they respect that commitment I had to my craft, and they respect that commitment I've had along my way. Some of them really can't believe I made it work, and I get those too. But again, at the end of the day, it's about yourself, your own journey, your self journey, right, Michelle? And it's like when you're on your self journey, you have to respect your own path and not worry about everybody else's path.
Wow. Absolutely. And I think that is so true. And that's why, I mean, I count my singleness as a gift right now because, well, I count it as a gift, not just right now, but
you got tired of us men. I get it. I heard you. I got you. I know that I'm on the other side of that equation. So I hear it plenty of times. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I can do what I can work 6 days a week, 8 hour, 9, 10 hours a day if I want to. Now, even as a single person, I still struggle sometimes to have a work-life balance. And even if it's just me, I've committed to taking the last Thursday or Friday off of every month. It's in my calendar to get out of Dodge. I call it detox and get out of Dodge day because you still need that. But your time is your own. So you can go out there and work and work and work and work because you're building something. I'm not just working because I like to work. I'd like to be out on my balcony sitting and reading all day. But I'm building something. You're building something. And so that's where that passion comes in. If you didn't really like what you were doing, you'd want to do the same thing. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
I'd be out fishing. If I didn't like what I was doing, I'd be out fishing because it's like, you know what? Why would I, again, I wouldn't have created the opportunities I did when I got furloughed. I would have just went fishing every day because I did have savings. I was collecting some unemployment and some other benefits. So it was like, I can go fishing every day or twice a week. And the rest of the time, just kind of hang out, catch up on my Netflix and chill stuff and whatever. But, at the same time, I'm not that guy, and I'm a guy who's going to create something to do. I have to have something to do. And it's, to me, again, when I was younger, I worked hard. Now I've learned to work smart because of my experience. I know what's important to know, and I know what I don't really need to know, which doesn't really matter. And again, I kind of scoff at men that are my age and older that are literally missing opportunities every day to be with their families, when they're not planning their time and scheduling their time right, because then they get so tired and worn down when they are with their families that you're not engaged, and so then you're still missing that time. You have to learn one of the key attributes in life, which I had to learn. Trust me, it's not like I had this answer my whole life. I had to learn this, is that work-life balance. And, I'll be honest, I had a girlfriend back in Connecticut when I was with the UFL, and she started me down the path of learning it because she used to I said, I have film to watch. She would literally take my computer and, let's go, like, get out of the house. We're going to do stuff. And I learned that when I focused harder to get it done because I wanted to go do things with her, I could get things done faster and move through the process a lot quicker. So work-life balance is a key, and not every successful person works 24/7. Do they work harder than most people? Yeah. But the focus is harder. The focus is better. If you also see most really successful people take time, 30 to 60 minutes a day, and break it up with some meditation, break it up with some physical activity, break it up with mental breaks so they get away from whatever they're doing. So then when they can re-engage and put the mental energy into whatever they're doing. And that's an aspect I don't think a lot of people do. Get up away from their desk and not go talk to somebody and distract them from their business, but go outside and eat an apple, go walk around a track, go read 10 minutes outside, get some fresh air, some vitamin D, and then come back in. Give yourself those breaks in order to focus in the moments you're focusing. Like this morning, I woke up at 5:45, did a podcast, had a meeting with Grace already, did some social media stuff. Now I'm on with you. Once this is done, I'm in my schedule. I have a 45-minute break to where I can eat breakfast, do some stuff around the house, and then get back to work a little bit later, because I got up and I grinded early. I get that reward of 45 minutes for myself.
Yes. And I just had a coaching experience with Sherry Everett from Lou Everett Executive Coaching Group. And she really was really helpful in getting that concept into my head of time chunking, and exactly what you're talking about. Take time chunk. Take this chunk of time to do this. Set the timer if you have to. Take this amount of time to chunk the time according to what you have to get done and what you want to do. So definitely, you're much more productive that way. And I would set the timer for 30 minutes to power work on a project. And before I knew it, felt like 5 minutes. That timer was going off. Oh, another 30 minutes. Oh, another 30 minutes. But before I knew it, it was an hour and a half that I got some focused work done. So I'm just, I'm thankful for the coaching that I received to teach me that. Sometimes we need that. We can find that information online, but sometimes that doesn't work. We need the extra, you need the graces in your life to keep you like, okay, what about this? What about this? Or you need to do this. We need that.
Yeah, and at Mavericks, like at Maverick Sports Consulting, what we try to do is to do that for the folks that are in sports. And again, whether you're a female athlete or a male athlete, it doesn't matter to Mavericks. We're trying to help you get to your goal. If you need a social media branding, consultation and how to do an autopsy on your social media to make sure you're putting the right message out there, because that a big part of branding right now is your personal brand to sell yourself to future employers. How to use your position as an athlete in college and high school to get to the next stage and show you how to create that. Or if it's grading your film, to just say, hey, this is what we're not seeing, your deficiencies, whatever. We help agents with, collecting their clients. Once they get their clients, helping train their clients, helping them put marketing material together for their clients. So, again, a lot of what we do is coaching. A lot of what we do is trying to get other people to maximize their opportunities they're putting themselves in position for, to then grow from there and not miss an opportunity. And again, as a decision maker, I've had to learn and make a lot of mistakes. So I'm trying to teach people to stay away from my mistakes, and as they grow their brands and their companies and their client lists and all that other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And you are being effective. that I know. So what keeps you pumped about life? What keeps that passion going? And I don't say because you're Italian.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And you know it.
Because that's what
don't do anything that's not passion. We're full of passion. Man. We come out the womb with passion.
Yes, we are. And I'm surprised our hands aren't like flying all over the screen, because we are very animated in our, in our approach, in our outlook and everything. So what, besides being Italian, you can incorporate that, because I know that's part of it.
It all comes from my Italian roots. It really does. Like the passion for family that you get instilled with in a very young age, the passion for food and passion for cooking, The passion to be involved around family. Like I told you earlier in the conversation, one of my best friends is my cousin Mark. I mean, I I I, I wouldn't know what to do without family, and that passion comes from that. The passion gets instilled from an early age. And even my mom, she's still, well, and when you meet her, she'll tell you how I'm supposed to be a lawyer. She'll go down that whole road and you'll see the pain on her face that she's upset about this still. I'm 45 years old and she's still upset about me not going at 22 to be a lawyer, But the passion to me is in every single person. I just think a lot of people ignore their passion. They turn it off because somewhere along their road, someone told them they weren't good enough to follow their passion. They were told you're not good enough to do this. I've always loved those people that were, the haters, I guess people call them these days, the naysayers back in my day, because as soon as you told me I couldn't do something, oh, I was doing it. I didn't care what it was. You said I can't, I'm doing it. At 5'4", I remember in high school, people were like, you can never dunk a basketball. Okay. In the middle of an assembly, I ran towards the hoop like I was going to dunk it. And one of my buddies last minute came on the court and fell down, like kneeled down. I jumped off his back and I dunked it. And I was like, I found a way. It was like, yeah, I was never going to jump up and be Spud Webb and dunk a basketball. But if I leap off this dude's back, I can. And so in my life, I've been told a lot of times, you can't do, you shouldn't do this and that. I had a professor in college one time told me I shouldn't be a lawyer because I'm dyslexic. And she's like, you're not gonna be able to read all the briefs and know everything. And I'm like, screw you. And I went, like I said, I was, I took everything ready to go to law school. I was gonna get admitted somewhere. It was gonna happen. And I was gonna be a lawyer, but I took that as motivation to go do it. My passion wasn't for the law. My passion was for football, and that's what was in my brain the whole time. Was you enjoy politics, you enjoy the mechanisms that move the country and everything, but your passion is football, and it's been there since a young age. And though I'm small and I work in a world of giants, I know when I walk in a room, my confidence is there because I've done this again 18 years. I've built great teams, and with that, I don't get the naysayers as much anymore, And so I have to find my passion and motivation in other ways because, I don't get the people saying you can't do that much anymore. I get told more, so then let me regress. So I take more passion for my family, being able to look at them and say, hey, I'm doing this for them. I'm going back to my kids and, and all that and saying, this is what I'm doing it for. But at the core value for me is that passion for football, the game. And I told all my interns that when they've ever gotten into the game of football and they want to be a personnel guy and learn to scout, it's like, you're not going to be recognized. You're not going to know, unless you're a GM, people aren't going to know who you are. You just got to be comfortable with working in the background. And if you don't love it, don't do it, because you can go out there, like you said, and make a lot more money and get more recognition in other realms in different ways. You really got to love it to do it. And I've asked myself a lot of times, why couldn't I just fall in love with the law and make a lot of money, or fall in love with financial, gaming and stuff and make a lot of money? Why did I have to fall in love with this game of football?
Yes, that's me too. And, my clientele, by the time I get the players, they have spent all their money. So like somebody asked me one time, why would you choose a clientele that don't have any money? And I said, that is an excellent question. When you find out the answer, you tell me. And we'll work on that. But because it's the passion behind it. I love helping people that never thought they could be authors. And it's never my words. It's not my words on the page. It's your words. It's what you want to say. It's your story. It's your information. And I'm just, helping you make them pretty on the page. So that's it. So tell people how they can find you, how they can follow you on social media.
Well, you can find me mainly. You go to @Mav_sports at MAV underscore sports. That's our social Twitter. On Facebook, it's Maverick Sports Consulting is our page. On Instagram, we're at Mavs underscore sports. So I'm pretty easy. I'm pretty well out there. Grace is making sure of that. So you can find me there. You can find me at D underscore Turner 47. That's my personal accounts for Twitter and stuff too. So you can find me there. Find me at mavericksportsconsulting.com. My email address there. You can email me direct there and see what we're up to, and go to the page and see if we can help you in any way. It's all of our whole product line is about service, trying to help you get to your goals, whatever it is, in the marketplace. And, with your help, like you said, I never thought I'd be an author, but in a few short months, we're going to have, not one, but 3 books written on these approaches to football, business, offensive scouting, defensive scouting. And, we'll continue to grow from there. We were kicking ideas around before we even got on here about even additional books. So, it's really exciting for me, and I really can't thank you enough for what you do, because it really is a selfless act of kindness that you take our ideas, our words, and you use your skill and put it to the page. It's just, finding you is like finding an angel.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking your time today and, and chatting about, I'm going to get that olive oil.
Yeah, you better.
I am.
You better.
David told me about this olive oil that is, and tell people the name, but I'm going to put it, it's in my Amazon wish list, but it's not your Trader Joe's $6.99 olive oil. So
no.
Tell people what the name of it is before we finish.
Hold on,
up.
let me get the bottle. Hold on.
Okay.
Right here.
Yeah, I want to get this olive oil, but it is not for the faint-hearted.
No. Here it is, right here.
Oh, wow.
You got to get this right here.
Even the label.
It's Sicilian olive oil, baby. It's some of the best you're ever going to have. So, again, it's Frantonio, and it's amazing. Extra virgin olive oil. It's a product of Italy, stamped and sealed, and it comes from Sicily. And what's really great about this olive oil, again, we can't be a time without talking about food, is that it has like undertones of citrus and nuts, because the bees in Sicily pollinate the olive oils as well as all these other trees and the nut trees and the flowers from the oranges and stuff, that it just works itself into the olives. And so when you press these olives, it has some great undertones of citrus and nut. And it's just like, I brought it to my grandmother back in California, and she just got a loaf of bread and was dipping and eating. And it was just, it's so light, it's so thin, it's just great olive oil to dip in. And you don't use it for cooking. This is your dipping olive oil right here. Or unless you're making like a nice pesto, you can use this for the pesto, and it will make a great pesto.
Yes, and I love the dipping. I put it in a little saucer, put some herbs in it, and just chunk up that bread, and it is, it's great. So that is still on my list. I just had to mention that. We could, and you're right. Being Italian, we could not end without talking about food, because that is such a part of the culture,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I thank you, David. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for all your information and for the wonderful chat today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on. And obviously, Michelle, I'll be talking to you soon. And anything Mavericks, myself, we can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask. And thank you so much again.
You're welcome. And this is Winning Proof Unscripted. I should show my hands because, we talked about the Italian thing. And so Italian, you gotta wave the hands, which I do in regular life. I try to be dignified for these things, but forget it now. But you can reach Winning Proof at winningproof.com or at winningproof@gmail.com, or you can visit my website, of course, at winningproof.com. And of course, the same name, Winning Proof, is on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. So thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.